Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Maddie. This is my channel. This is my plants.
Hello.
So today I want to share with you guys what I think would probably be my top 5 easiest to care for plants that I currently have in my collection. Now this is just from my experience, and obviously my conditions that I provide my plants is going to be different to what you guys provide your plants. So what's easy for me may not be easy for you, so just keep that in mind, okay? But I just want to show you guys what I find to be generally easy to care for. So the first plant that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is my Philodendron scandens, or otherwise known as a Philodendron Heartleaf. So this guy was actually a cutting that my friend gave me off her plant, and since owning it, this guy has put out so much new growth. So if I can find a video or a photo, I'll put it up on the screen here just so you can see how much that it actually has grown since she gave it to me. So this guy here is in a really well draining soil mixture. I actually mix up my own soil because I find that just buying regular potting soil doesn't have the best drainage. So what I like to do with my soil mixture is I like to add in more bark and more perlite, and I pretty much water this guy maybe once a week, twice maybe if it's really hot. It's been really rainy and muggy here in Australia for the last week or so, so I haven't really had to water my plants as frequently as I usually do. So the way that I tell this guy needs water, all I have to do is wait for it to start looking really floppy and the leaves get really soft and limp, and you can tell just by looking at it that it needs water, and that's generally a sign with all of my plants. I usually like to let my plants tell me when they need water rather than watering by a schedule or watering depending on what the moisture meter reads. So the reason that I find this guy to be particularly easy is honestly, I don't have to do a whole lot to make it happy. You know, I just water it when it tells me it wants some water, and then it just shows its appreciation by putting out new growth all the time. So that is my first pick for an easy to care for plant, and I'll move on to the next one. So my next pick for an easy to care for plant is the Rafa Fora Tetris. Now this guy here, similar to my Philodendron Heartleaf, is also in a terracotta pot and a well draining mix. And I also let this guy tell me when it needs water. It'll go limp and the leaves will go really soft. So that is a sure sign that I need to give this guy a drink. And it just pushes out growth constantly. It'll put out a leaf and then a day or two later, it'll put out a new leaf again. It obviously is appreciative of the conditions that I give it. So it gets bright and direct light pretty much all day long, and it gets a more intense light between like midday and maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So I definitely recommend the Rafa Fora Tetris if you want a plant that is on the easier side to care for. So moving on from that, my next choice is my Philodendron Hastatum, also known as the Philodendron Silver Sword, and it gets that name because of the silvery sheen that it has on its leaves. And I might also point out, see how the leaf is curling? That is a sure sign that this guy is due for a watering. And another thing I like to do is I like to wiggle the moss pole, and if it moves a little too easily, it's definitely a sign that the soil is really dry and that it's time to water it. So this guy is a really well growing plant. It puts out new leaves all the time, although I have noticed a bit of a decline in growth. But I think that's mainly due to the fact that it's due to be fertilized. It is putting out a new leaf here, but it did take a fair while for that leaf to come through. So I would take that as a sign that it definitely needs a fertilize. But yeah, that is my third choice for an easy to care for plant. So moving on from that, correct me if I'm wrong in pronouncing this plant's name, but this is a Philodendron Repens. I'm not 100% sure. So initially when I first got this plant, I did have a lot of issues with it. It had root rot, but that was because of the soil mixture that it was in, and the nursery was obviously overwatering it. So what I did was I basically chopped it and propped it, and since I did that and I put it into terracotta and I put it into my soil mixture, which is a really well draining soil mixture, it has thrived. Now this guy sits right against my window, so it gets bright indirect light basically all day long. Well, not basically, all day long. And I treat this very similarly to a succulent. So I let the soil go bone dry before I water it. And even then I'll let it go dry and then maybe leave it for a day or two, and then I'll water it. And obviously it appreciates that because, well, can you tell? It's just thriving, and it's such a cute little plant. It's got like the pinky, purpley, little tiny delicate leaf. I don't know if the color of it comes across that well on camera, but if I have a photo of it, I'll put it on the screen so you can see its true coloration. But yeah, such a beautiful little plant, so easy to care for, in my opinion anyway. It has to be one of the easiest, if not probably the easiest plant that I have in my collection to care for. So if you do come across one, I definitely would recommend to pick one up because it's just so cute. So moving on from that, this is my final choice, and it is the Philodendron bipennifolium, also known as the Philodendron Horsehead, because the leaves resemble somewhat of a horse head. So a bit of a backstory on this plant. This is actually my dad's plant that he had for I think 20 to 30 years. So it was a pretty big plant, and I asked him whether I could have a cutting to take home, and he basically just said, here's a pair of scissors, go crazy. And I ended up coming home with like 15 cuttings, I think it was. This entire shelf here is cuttings of his plant that I propagated up and potted. They've all rooted up really well, and they've all put out heaps of new growth. So it's just a matter of deciding whether I want to put them all into one really large pot or if I want to sell a couple of them. But I'm undecided on that, only because it's sentimental, because it is my dad's plant. So that is a decision that I will make in the future. So those are my top 5 easy to care for plants. If you have any plants that you find to be easy to care for, feel free to drop them in the comments below and we can chat about it more down there. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, as always, don't forget to give it a like. Head on over to my channel and subscribe so you don't miss out on any videos in the future. I also have an Instagram account, so if you want to follow me over there, it's just at @antsinmyplants_. But until then, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Today I just wanted to do they're just plants that I can just spat. All right, so those, you're gonna love that awkward moment making a thumbnail. To me on that shelf there. Oh my God. Ow. So correct me if my pronunciation. Wow.